I asked my son what he thought I should talk about today. And he said family. Thought that was very fitting, since today we have a feeling of coming home. We can't share a meal, we can't hug each other, but we can share the best of who we are. Us, just showing up. That's the best of who we are. I've heard the term church family a lot, and for some people that works well. For some people it doesn't work, because whenever we hear a term like family, we bring in our own definition, we bring in our own feelings, and if your family has hurt you, it might not feel right to say, come on, church family, let's bind together and do this. And you get to define the word family just the way it makes sense to you. Family can be made of blood. You can also, as you know, choose your family. And by being with us today, you are making a choice. Who am I bringing into my atmosphere on purpose today? Church also uses a lot of patriarchal pronouns, like Father or Lord. And if you've had positive experiences with male figures in your life, that might be okay. But when you've been hurt by someone who is male and possibly in charge of you, saying words like Lord or Father might not fit. But church can be whatever you want it and need it to be. The days of believing what a certain denomination believes just for the sake of believing is fading. The new way of celebrating your spirituality is one of autonomy. Yes, we still come together and we share, but what you believe does not have to match what I believe for me to love you. We are autonomous and yet community. You decided who God is for you, and you continue to decide who God is for you. Whatever that belief is, you are supported by your community. I want you to think about something today. What is your definition of church family? What was it when you grew up? What is it now? How is it working for you? You can build your own definition of family and church, and it will be supported. I would say the only exception would be if your belief system requires you to hurt someone else, saying that it is in the name of God. That will need some nurturing and some attention. Let's talk about home. We think of family, we think of home. What's home to you? A comfortable place to lay your head, where you celebrate, where you keep your stuff, a place where you keep your guard down. The food we share at home is made of flour, salt, fat. It nourishes our body. Now, I love a good church potluck. When I go to a church potluck, I think, this is it. This is church for me, because there's food and there's community. And I also recognize that the nourishment we receive at a good church potluck is soul nourishment. We can't do a potluck all the time. In fact, we can't be face to face all the time, but the soul nourishment is still possible. And our mission right now and our challenge is, how do we nourish each other? What's the food we share with each other when we can't be face to face? How about seeing each other for who we are? There's a rhythm when you go to temple or church every Sunday. There's a rhythm to that, and the rhythm is, it's time for church, I see my church people, I go home, and Monday starts. Fine. But have you ever had the experience that you've worked with someone for years, or you've gone to church or temple with them for years, and you realize, I had no idea they were a doctor. I had no idea that they had foster children, because we see just the part of them that they're bringing to church. What would happen if you showed up and I were to hand you 20 name tags and I'd say, I want to know who you are on these name tags. Go ahead and wear them. What would we learn about you? That's kind of the goal here. How do we coexist, even in little pockets of time, and use that time so well that we pop below the surface and we go deeper? How do we do that? Well, if I'm going to wear, some of my name tags are vulnerable and ugly. If I'm going to wear those name tags, I need to trust you. How do we build trust if we just see each other once a week? Sat with that question for a while last night, and what came to me was serving others. When we get the chance to serve other people, something happens. We are blending some things. We are blending the action of helping someone else. We are letting our guard down because we're there for a common cause. And then our stuff comes out. As you serve a meal, you might say, you know, when I was growing up, my mother always made this meal and I did not like it. And you start to think about your relationship with your mother, which starts another conversation, and we open up. Serving others will bring out the name tags in us. And I have to believe that's by design. It's challenging right now because of the pandemic, but it hasn't stopped. I want you to hear that again. It's challenging to get out there and help and to get to know each other, but it hasn't stopped. There are definitely things that are growing. There's an undercurrent of healing and passion and new growth that's happening, even if we can't always see it. So what we're asked to do right now is be intentional about everything we do. If we're going to go to the grocery store to buy toothpaste, maybe the intention is, all right, Creator, I'm going in to buy toothpaste. I'm here if you need me. Maybe we can't do the potlucks. Maybe we can't serve the meals right now. But we still can be of service. And when we are of service, we get to know ourselves better and we get to know our community better. My challenge for you is to observe your life this week. What are you doing already? What are you doing? And what intention could you add to that to make it more meaningful to you and other people? Those things that you do within the walls of your home, add an intention. If you're taking a shower, instead of rushing through, set the intention, this is my time with you, Creator. Nobody else is in the room, probably. Spend some time with your Creator. And just say, what is it that I need to know? What do you ask of me? When you're sharpening a pencil, be creative about that. What else am I sharpening? Today, we've come to our church home, and you've been coming here every week, even if it's not within these walls. but we've never left, not one day. I'm here a lot. Holly is here a lot. One of us every day. And we feel you here. Whenever you think of us, we feel it. Whenever you think that I miss unity, we feel it. You are here. You haven't left. And we do our best to send that back to you. When someone passes in our life, that same rhythm happens. When they think of us, we think of them. When we think of them, they feel it. And yet it's not the same because there's not a hand to hold. Can't reach out for a hug. But in this situation, we can. You can call. You can get on Facebook. And I'm saying that out loud so you don't ever feel that there's a gap created in your life because we are not together. We are together. That has endured. Growing up as a Catholic girl, in the back of the sanctuary, there was this red candle that was on all the time. It was the light of eternal life, maybe. And I remember learning when I was little that if that light was on, it meant that God was home. And I wondered, what happens if the candle goes out? What happens if there's a strong gust of air and it blows out? Every time I walked into that church, and even now if I were to go back to visit, you know that's the first thing I'm going to look for. That was God leaving the light on for me, I thought, like Motel 6. And yeah, I know that it's more than that. I know that's a symbol. But how can we as a church leave the light on for each other? If we can't see that light, you drive by, we're saving on the utilities, so we're not going to leave a light on, but I love you. But how can you drive by and still feel that those are my people and they're thinking of me? And how can you do that for other people? Because that light is eternal. It doesn't go out. And then I realized one day when we were doing maintenance at the church and the light was out, this is probably my 5th grade year, I'd say, I realized after a moment of panic that candle was out, that God still is there. And I started to wrap my mind around the idea that God's home is not that church. It's not those bricks and mortar. It's not this church. It's you. And that was really hard for me to understand as a child, that I could be a house of God. Could I be a house of God? As a 5th grader, I didn't even like to wash my feet or brush my teeth. How could God live in me? And yet, that idea of being imperfectly perfect creates the house for God. When I heard Mary speak today, it reminded me of that idea. As we walk through, we are that light of God. And how do we show that that light is on? With our smile, with our actions, by holding space. You don't have to be a font of knowledge or a font of wisdom. Sometimes you just have to show up and trust that wherever you are, you're there on purpose, and wait for it. And sometimes it's not you who's going to be the helper. You're on the receiving end. And be receptive to that. There is strength in receiving help. Depending on where you are in your spiritual walk, God may be outside of you. God may feel that he, she is inside you. Could be both. All are correct. You may think of God as a creator force that is a oneness, an essence that moves through all of us. Yes, all of that. And I don't think it's important that you have to nail down a definition. I do think it's important that you keep asking and you keep wondering. That's part of our human experience. We know something in 1 minute and then we get to say, but what else is there? But are you sure? Tell me more. It's good to question. And I personally love how we get to question in this space. And no one tells us that we are bad for questioning or that we are sinning for questioning. If God has a face and a smile, I'm sure there's a smile that happens there at that time. How does God fit for me? God is essence. God is the spiritual core that lives deep within me. And I see it in you, in all of you. I'm not being poetic. I'm being literal. I see the light. It comes through the windows of your eyes. It comes through your smile. I see the light, that eternal light that I looked at when I was little walking into that church. God is there. That light now is seen in you. Look for it in each other. You may not see it. You might see it in your mind's eye, but you're going to feel it. The challenge is seeing that God light in people who really make you mad. They're the ones that they're really hard to be around. Guess what? They've got that light in there as well. Allow those people to be your mirror. When somebody makes you mad over and over, maybe sit with that and think, why are they making me so mad? What is it about me that needs attention right now? Remember that you are the walking, talking manifestation of God. No pressure. You're not going to mess it up. You get to be human. You get to make mistakes. And what if we don't even call them that? What if they're learnings? What if they're opportunities? At your core, you are made of God. You are the Tootsie Pop. Here's the inside. Spirit doesn't change. That's the stick. The next part, the Tootsie Roll, that's your soul. That changes with your 5 senses and your experiences. Then the candy part, that's your beautiful body. But the stick doesn't change. It's eternal. That's your core. And anytime you're suffering, you get to go through the skin into that core and rest there. That's the place where you are complete, you are healed, you have what you need. That's the place where God makes sense to you. And that God doesn't have to be like anybody else's God. That's you and your Creator. That's the stuff you're made of. Sometimes your body will feel it. Sometimes the feeling that's happening in your heart, maybe it even feels like heartburn or a stretching of the tendons around your heart. Perhaps that is the God part of you activating. Who knows? Back to a teacher memory, if you don't mind. There was this big push for a while to make social contracts in classes. And a social contract was something that you devised with your class and you put it on the wall, and it basically said how you expected to treat each other. Didn't have consequences on it, it was just an agreement. I thought it would be a good idea to bring that home for my little tiny kids at that time, that would work, and I had them sign it with a handprint. And the idea was that whenever something wasn't happening, I could point to it and say, oh, but that's not what we decided. How do you think that worked out? But I still have it because it reminds me where we were and how far we've come. And the idea of putting some parameters or some loving rules, boundaries on how we're going to love and what we're going to expect from people is a pretty good idea. If I were to redo that, I would start by going into my core place. And I would let that fuel me. Because before, when I made it, my ego was in charge. What do I need for my life to be easier? What do I need to look like a better parent or a better teacher? That's fallen away. I don't have that anymore. Sometimes, sure. But if I were to redo that, I wonder how it would be different. What would your social contract, your contract of agreements have on it? Think about somebody specific in your life. What is on there? What have you decided but you haven't really talked about? Maybe it's a best friend or a partnership, a marriage, a coworker. Maybe it's someone you share your life with that before you loved and now it's a different kind of love. Do some thinking on that. What's on that contract? Are you both aware? Because if you write that contract, how we're going to treat each other, wouldn't it be nice to share that information? To all be on the same ticket, the same awareness. And when I learned how to do that, they said, this is not set in stone. This is a living document, and you get to look at it and change it as you want. We're changing some things about church. And by we, I mean we, people. This pandemic has brought around some great opportunities for structures to break. Structures that have been around forever, and maybe they're not working for us as much anymore. Economic structures, some family structures, church structures. Perhaps top-down isn't what we need anymore. Perhaps we need something more collaborative. That social contract that we make with each other is, this is how I want to be treated, and this is how I will treat you. This is how we will solve problems and create together. What if we did that for church? I believe it's coming for us. I believe we have reached out our arms because we've wanted something different, and it's beginning to take shape. In the next few months, we have someone, Janet Dre, who's coming to train us so that we can learn how to be a collaborative church. Our hearts are already there. But she's done this many times, and she's going to walk us through how to do it. She's going to answer our questions. She's going to address our concerns. She's going to hold us while we figure this stuff out. Nothing's broken. This is our next evolution. I don't know totally what that's going to look like, but it's going to be great. I know that when you have a great idea, my response as your leader in this moment can be, that's wonderful. How do we do it together? I know that when we say we're going to support the community, now we get to do it together instead of 2 or 3 people that show up every time, which is great. Love you so much. Wouldn't it be great if more of us were involved? That's coming. And we get to re-identify or redefine church family. We're looking at that light that's in us. We're trusting that it's always there. We're looking at that document that's written in our hearts. We're going to write some new things on it. And then we walk the walk. We talk the talk. So that's coming. Keep your eyes peeled on the website for the next few weeks. Next steps are coming. If you're hearing me say this and you think, oh, this sounds like me, great, let me know, because I want you to be involved. Everyone has a voice, everyone. And if there have been times in your life where your voice hasn't been honored, let's let that be done, because it will be honored now. Listening will be very important. Let's practice that. If we know something big is happening for us and a tool is listening, let's practice that. Start dreaming. What do you want from Unity? What do you want from your life? Maybe write those things down.